went so far as to say, you're probably not going to get the killer. You are going to get the killer. Do you have any idea why we have you here? Do you know why we asked you to come down here? And he looked at us and said, April Tinsley.
Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. I am Sherrilyn and I am so glad you found me. If you're not new, thank you for joining me every single upload. I already know that you know, and I know that you know that I love and appreciate you so much.
They don't know that we know that they know. So
we have a lot to get into today. Today is another very heavy case, but important, as they all are, and something I really want to talk about, kind of like on the investigator side as well of things. So we're going to get right into it. We definitely need a riddle today. So today's riddle is, I dance between the chill and sun. My showers make the flowers run. I'm fourth in line, yet never late. With jokes and blooms I decorate. What month am I? While you think about that, I have one more quick message for you. I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, ZocDoc. If you haven't heard of ZocDoc, it is a free app and website that makes booking healthcare appointments super easy. You can search and compare over 100,000 high quality in-network doctors across a ton of specialists, from mental health to dental, eye care, and more. If you are fans of the Do We Know Them podcast, then you know that my friends Lily and Jesse are huge fans of ZocDoc, and they've both used the app. And now I get it. I had a dietitian appointment that I've been putting off for a while, partly because I didn't want to call around and see who was available and who wasn't. And ZocDoc took all that work out for me. I searched dietitian and a bunch around me popped up, and then right under their names was their appointment availability. Some were even the same day. It was so cool. And I do think that that is actually one of the biggest hurdles sometimes, just taking the time to search for specialists, call, ask for referrals, etc. And things like our health that are really important are sometimes put on the back burner. So ZocDoc makes it easy to find doctors who are in network with your insurance. You can also filter for nearby options and choose based on ratings from actual patients, so you know that you are in good hands. Appointments are quick to get, typically within 24 to 72 hours, which is insane these days. Sometimes you can even score same-day appointments, which is even wilder. So stop waiting and get yourself the care you deserve. Head on over to ZocDoc.com/SherrilynDale to instantly book a top-rated doctor today. It's also linked in my description. Once again, that's ZocDoc.com/SherrilynDale. And thank you again so much to ZocDoc for supporting today's video. All right, thank you again to our amazing Susie for putting this case together. Like I said, this is an incredible example of there being wonderfully determined and, I don't know, just like, I want to say stubborn, but like in the most pleasant, complimentary way possible, detectives and investigators out there who are just relentless and will stop at nothing to get justice for a victim and their family, even if it takes 30 years, which is what happened in this case, the case of April Tinsley and her loved ones. The unwavering determination from these investigators, multiple investigators and teams, not only got justice for April, but also got one of the most terrifying, disgusting monsters that I can think of off the streets. April Marie Tinsley was born Tuesday, March 18th, 1980 to Michael and Janet Tinsley. She's been described as sweet and kind and loved by many. She had blonde hair, large brown eyes, and a cheeky smile. At 8 years old, she was living with her parents and younger brother in the charming Hoagland Masterson, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, a neighborhood in South Central Fort Wayne, Indiana. She was a member of the children's choir at the Faith United Methodist Church and attended Fairfield Elementary. On Good Friday, April 1st in 1988, April was out playing with her friends, enjoying a cool but lovely spring day in northeastern Indiana. In the morning, she had walked to her friend's home on Hoagland Avenue. Later that day, it looked like it was going to rain, so April told her friends that she was going to pick up the umbrella that she had left at another friend's house just a couple blocks away. She left her one friend's house and she never made it home. April's mother reported her missing to Fort Wayne Police Department at around 3 p.m. when she hadn't come home before dinner. Janet provided responding officers with a photo of April and did her best to recall what she had been wearing that day. It was a blue turtleneck sweater, pink and red jacket, light blue pants with 3 hearts on the left leg, and pink shoes. Authorities and community members responded immediately and in force. With the aids of dozens of volunteers and more than 250 officers, they began searching for April, who had only just turned 8 2 weeks before she went missing. Obviously, as they're canvassing the neighborhood, they're interviewing possible witnesses, trying to get a description of a suspect, but investigators failed to track down any substantial leads right away. Devastatingly, on Monday, April 4th, 1988, the Indiana State Police and DeKalb County Police responded to calls by a jogger who found the deceased body of a young girl in a water-filled dish near Spencerville, Indiana, on County Road 68, nearly 25 miles from where April had last been seen. The clothing matched the description of April Tinsley when she had been missing. Detectives also discovered a shoe that appeared to belong to her approximately 1,000 feet west of her body. While on the scene, detectives took a Polaroid photo of the victim to show the Tinsley family that same day, and at approximately 5:50 p.m., Janet and Michael Tinsley identified the body as April Marie Tinsley from that photograph. It appeared April had been kidnapped, raped, and murdered. According to her death certificate, she died from asphyxiation as a result of suffocation with indications of sexual assault. Her death was ruled a homicide, and her time of death was noted as approximately the early mornings of April 3rd, meaning she was likely alive for more than a day after she was taken. Detectives on the scene also found some crucial evidence. This is hard to even say or process, but they found a homemade sex toy in a shopping bag from the department store Sears on the scene, which they were able to pull DNA from. April's underwear also contained the suspect's semen. Forensics examination revealed a DNA profile from an unknown male, but the samples were too small to create a complete DNA profile at that time. Remember, we're in the 80s at this time. We've advanced so much with DNA, but you have to give it to investigators and detectives at that time to know how important this was going to be and the advances that were going to come for cases like this. The following day, they received another tip. A motorist reported to police that they had seen a blue vehicle near the site sitting on DeKalb County Road. Days after that, another call came from another eyewitness, and they reported that they saw a white man, possibly in their 30s, with light brown or dirty blonde, wavy hair, forcing a young girl who resembled April into his blue pickup truck. I do want to make it clear, Susie has a side note here saying that she was not able to verify who this witness was or why they didn't report the abduction at the time. Some reports are that witness was also another young girl, which could have made sense, why it wasn't reported, just being scared and not knowing what to do. And then another report is that it was an adult female who stated April didn't appear forced into the vehicle or frightened, and assumed it was just a father picking up the daughter. So that if you've got questions, so do we. And despite these leads, the DNA evidence, this case went unsolved for 30 years. On April 26th, those DNA samples of April and 5 suspects were sent to a private lab in Germantown, Maryland for profiling. Again, received inconclusive results. This is obviously something that affected not only April's loved ones, but detectives on this case as well. Over the years, there were hundreds of tips that came in, but the next viable one came on May 21st, 1990, when police were contacted after a teenager had found a message on a barn on Schwartz Road, roughly 12 miles from where April's body had been found. And the note said, "I kill 8-year-old April M. Tinsley. Did you find her other shoe? Haha. I will kill again." There's spelling errors in there too. We'll put that note up on screen so you can see it. So this message had been written with crayons that were found at the scene on the ground under the message. So investigators felt confident that the note had come from April's killer due to the reference of her other shoe. As I said, only one of April's shoes had been found at the time of her body being discovered, but that fact that the other shoe had not been found was a detail that investigators had never shared with the media or the public. So it was a pretty clear statement that this was somebody who was very familiar with what happened and what that scene looked like. Once again, investigators found themselves at another dead end because yes, they had the crayons that had been collected at the scene where the note was, and they tested them for fingerprints, but they came back not being able to detect any. This would not be the last time that the detectives heard from the alleged murderer, but it wouldn't be until 2004 that they got their next lead. So you got to just, again, like, consider all of this time that is passing, you know, like years, especially in a case like this, can feel like centuries. It was May 2004 when 4 notes were left at various residents in the greater Fort Wayne area. 3 had been placed on bicycles of young girls, and then there was 1 that was left in a mailbox. Police were dispatched to the Higgs family home in Graybill, Indiana, after a 7-year-old had found a plastic bag in the basket of her pink bicycle. The bag contained, this is so disgusting, a used condom and a letter claiming to be from April Tinsley's killer. Sick. The Higgs family wasn't around in 1988 when April was murdered, but obviously, you know, like, had contacted the authorities of how sick this was. So the police noted similarities between the letter that this 7-year-old had received and the note that was left on the barn nearly 14 years prior. Comparisons between that note and the barn did indicate that the writing was the same based on same misspellings, poor grammar, punctuation errors, etc. This little girl was not the only one to receive a letter like this. 2 other girls aged 5 and 9 in Fort Wayne and Graybill also found disturbing handwritten letters. 1 had been placed in a basket used as like a flower pot, and the other had been taped to the little girl's bicycle. All 3 of the disgusting notes had, again, handwritten, placed in plastic bags, and included a used condom. What the fork is wrong with people? I can't even process this. While they're investigating these 3 letters, a 4th one is discovered. This one is in a mailbox in a Fort Wayne residence, which this one did not have a used condom, but it included a Polaroid photograph of a naked white man's torso as he lay on the bed pleasuring himself. The semen retrieved from these condoms was tested and found to be 100% matched to the sample collected from April Tinsley's underwear in 1988. The DNA was also run through state and national databases, but there was no matches found. So the DNA matched, but that profile was not within the system, so this person hadn't been, you know, like, charged and needed to submit DNA. After this string of notes in 2004, the killer again went silent. That being said, this like little reign of disgusting terror was able to provide additional DNA that was going to be needed to eventually zero in on a killer. It was in May 2009 that the FBI officially stepped in to assist, and they had a behavioral analyst create a comprehensive profile of the suspect. It's been a minute since we have gone through like a suspect profile, but if you've been here for a long time, you know how like fascinated I am with them, especially after things get solved, to like compare. So the profile that was given was this person was Caucasian, male, circumcised, hair on lower legs, and in 2009 he would have been in his 40s or 50s, low to medium low income, owned or borrowed a Polaroid camera in 2004. The suspect would have had a long-term and persistent sexual desire for children, specifically young girls. He could be married, but that would be abnormal for men like this. If he was married, his partner might be aware of his interest in girls, but in denial about the extent of his interest or his willingness to act on it. He would prefer the company of children to the company of adults. He would be socially awkward. He would attempt to build relationships that give him access to these young girls, or might seek out employment or volunteer to get in close proximity to them. He would be drawn to places where children gathered, such as playgrounds, public swimming pools, and parks. And this offender would have strong ties to the Northeast Fort Wayne and Allen County area. This is likely where they said this person lived, works, and or shops. With the involvement of the FBI, it opened up a huge opportunity for other like groups, organizations, different authorities and teams in different areas to also get involved. One of them being CARD, or Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team. That team was only created in 2006, so it had been a long time by that point that April had been murdered, but got involved. That team, it sounds incredible. It consists of 48 members, and I guess they're organized into like 10 different teams in 5 regions across the United States. And since the program's creation, they have deployed 38 teams and aided in the recovery of 18 children. I think that is unbelievable. So they got involved, and I think they were really crucial in helping to just kind of help out with the detectives, start managing like different agents, kind of be like, I think that like central, maybe like even like organization area. And I feel like that would be so important in something like this, especially when you have like so many different groups and teams set up and stuff like that. So if you can kind of have like a hub of like where to communicate it so things aren't getting like too crossed over, like not too many cooks in the kitchen once you have like this amount of people involved in a case. America's Most Wanted also got involved. I think they filmed 2 episodes about April's case. The first aired on Saturday, April 11th, 2009. It was season 22, episode 29. And after that episode aired, hundreds of tips came in. Over 400 DNA samples were submitted for comparison. Unfortunately, though, the case went cold again. On their second trip, when they went back, it was in 2012. And at this point, they kind of did like a recap of everything, re-examined the case and evidence as well. And this was the first time that the public learned more details about the sex toy that had been found near April's body. And I cannot even imagine like what that would have been like seeing that on this segment. But they learned that, like the public learned that this was a toy like made out of wood that worked manually via like a hand crank. So obviously like just horrified people. Got even more people involved. I think by 2010, more than 700 suspects had their DNA tested, but no matches had been made.
This isn't something you just give up on. Cold cases go cold, but sometimes they come back to life. When there's a child involved in something like that, it really pulls at the heartstrings. They've received several hundred tips. Over 400, from what I'm being told, over 400 DNA samples have been submitted. There needs to be some closure there. It's a long time to leave something open like that. Everybody wants answers.
Now we're gonna kind of like take it back to like 2018. Okay, this was a really big turning point for a lot of cold cases, and I think that was keeping the spirits up and the determination up from a lot of these types of investigators and detectives and teams who were just, again, so like positively stubborn and determined and relentless to get answers. So in 2018, with the arrest of the Golden State Killer after 44 years, law enforcement identified Joseph James D'Angelo Jr. by using GEDmatch. They were able to upload the killer's DNA to GEDmatch and then successfully identified him through his family's lineage. So this kind of like marked an unprecedented shift in solving previously many people believed to be unsolvable cases. So in 2009, detectives in Fort Wayne, Indiana had submitted the DNA evidence from the unsolved murder of April Tinsley to Parabon. And this is a company that specializes in using that advanced genealogy techniques to try to help resolve long-standing cold cases. And it's led by the highly trained genealogist, C.C. Moore, who I think is unbelievable. So she's head of Parabon's genetic genealogy unit, and she also hosts the TV series, The Genetic Detective. So Parabon uses this technology to analyze the killer's DNA against the samples that they had. And according to Detective Brian Martin in an interview with WANE 15, he was very optimistic because they went as far to say to him, like, you're not probably going to get the killer, you're going to get the killer.
They went so far as to say, you're probably not going to get the killer, you are going to get the killer. And I think we all looked at each other because we'd been on a roller coaster ride. We thought we'd had the killer 1 or 2 other times, or thought we were getting very close, only to be let down.
And within just 8 hours of uploading the DNA, GEDmatch returned matches to distant relatives, primarily third cousins and beyond. So from there, C.C. Moore was able to identify 2 of the matched individuals as siblings. By using public records, including like obituaries, marriage license, birth announcements, she was able to construct a family tree, beginning with ancestors from the 1800s and then, progressing to like modern day descendants. I find this so fascinating. This is also like a big thing in my family as well. Like my mom and I are very fascinated by this. Like one of her cousins, like my cousin as well, love her so much, is also very fascinated by this. So I don't know, you gotta let me know in the comments too, like if you're just like get like so excited to hear these things. I know like some people have like a controversial take, especially when it comes to using the DNA to like solve cases for like the privacy aspect of it, but I'm like, bro, no. Like, this is just game changing for so many families. Eventually, her work led her to a couple who had 3 sons by 1961. The couple had relocated from Florida to Fort Wayne and had 2 surviving brothers, John D. Miller and J.P. Miller. So for the first time now in this case, after all of these years, things moved super quickly once those results came back. Again, this is just going to back to how fascinating I think that this is, because it's like you're just feeling stagnant and helpless and like frustrated. You don't want to give up, but you're like, how are we going to get answers? And it's like something like this in advance of technology that all of a sudden it's just like, whew, like where we are making so much progress we can't even keep up. So detectives ended up surveilling the brothers, specifically John D. Miller, and it appeared that he lived alone. He was the lone occupant of 13722 Main Street, Lot 4 in Graybill, Indiana. According to the affidavit for probable cause, on July 6, 2018, a covert trash pull was conducted at the residence of John D. Miller in an attempt to locate any items that may contain his DNA. And in examining the trash, several items were collected, including 3 used condoms. By July 9th, 2018, that DNA that was pulled from the trash pull was tested against not only the DNA that was collected from April's underwear in 1988, but also from the condoms that were recovered in 2004 from the Disgusting Notes, 66 Sicko, and all of them were a match. 6 days later, on July 15th, John D. Miller was approached at his trailer while he was in front of his home returning from a grocery trip. Detectives asked, like, we gotta talk to you. Do you want to take your groceries inside? He's like, no. They're like, all right, well, do you want to come with us to the police department? And he agreed. So it was a 30-minute drive to the station, and detectives said that he was very talkative. He talked a lot of kind of about his interests, that he was a big word search guy, loved a good word search and crossword puzzle, and also was a big fan of like their work in police shows. Once they arrive at the station, he's placed in an interview room, read his rights, and when the investigators asked him, why do you think you're here? The then 59-year-old says, April Tinsley. Obviously, a very telling answer. At this point, they explain that the DNA connection from April to the used condoms to the ones that were in the trash pull all coming back to him. And they asked him, at this point we know, do you want to talk about what happened with April? And he just said, I can't. It took some time, but he did finally admit to the detectives that he did in fact abduct April Tinsley. Trigger warning here, the details that was provided from John D. Miller are horrific, disgusting, and heartbreaking. John D. Miller admitted to driving around Fort Wayne saying he was looking for a target of opportunity, and that's when he saw April walking down the street. He said he had never seen April prior to this encounter. There was nobody else around, so he pulled up and parked his vehicle about a block ahead of her and waited outside of it. And once she had walked close enough, he approached her and told her to get into the car. She did, and he immediately took off and brought her back to his trailer in Graybill. Unfortunately, one of those eyewitnesses who had observed this abduction had made an error. They mistakenly believed that Miller was in a blue pickup truck, but he was driving a blue Mercury Lynx sedan. Once they got to his trailer, according to the affidavit, this was his quote, he had sex with her, then choked her to death so that she did not report him. And I hate that in that affidavit, the words had sex with was used because it's you sick piece of shit, you raped a child. That's what you did. John Miller then went on to tell police that it took April about 10 minutes to die. That is so horrific to just consider and think about, and the fear of that little baby. Oh my God. I feel like Jurassic Jail would be too good for this mother effer. Because it gets worse. Yeah. Not that it wasn't already. After she was dead, he then goes and sodomizes her her body. And then he waited for it to get dark before driving her to the location that she was found, dumping her in the ditch and leaving. And it was actually the next day, like a sick sicko, he drove past the dump site and he notices one of her shoes is still in his vehicle. So he threw it out like along that ditch. That's why it was like 1,000, I think it was like, yeah, 1,000 miles west of the body, because he had like seen it. So that was when he had gone back. Then from there, he says like for years, he just maintained a low profile. He lived in that same trailer park that entire time and nobody in the community ever suspected him. He also did go on to admit that he did think about abducting another child, like didn't intend for April to be the only one, but that there was never like the same opportunity. Thank freaking God. I don't know what we want in these situations, right? It's like, how are you admitting to this? But in the same sense, it's like, you're kind of thankful that he did, just to like confirm like what a monster. This isn't that, this is like real life. Like there are people like this out there. And I guess the least you can freaking do in this situation is be honest. I don't know. Or like just not do this. But anyways, he also did eventually admit that like he was the one who left all of those notes and they used condoms. And he said that he did it because like he wanted more attention. Sicko. Sicko. So after admitting to this, he was immediately taken into custody. He opted to forego a trial and accepted a plea deal instead, which removed the death penalty from the table. He did receive a 80-year prison sentence without the possibility of appeal for pleading guilty to the charges of criminal confinement, child molestation, and felony murder, which at his age is a life sentence. It's not freaking good enough. Again, Jurassic Jail isn't even good enough, you sick sicko. Ugh. As I was reading through like all of Susie's incredible research, something that I came across that really touched my heart was that on August 16th, 2015, there was a memorial for April called April's Garden that was dedicated in the neighborhood that she grew up in and was taken from. And then in addition to that garden, there is like a pink magnolia tree and a bench that has been installed at the elementary school that she went to. And it just touched me because I hope that April's family knows that something like a memorial garden and a bench, especially at a school, is so impactful and truly shows like her loved ones that she will live on forever and be remembered. At my elementary school, there was a tree and a memorial plaque for a student who had lost his life. And all of my friends and I would go, and visit it and walk by like every single day and ask questions. So like that in itself, you leave an impact and you don't even know it. Also in May 2019, 9 investigators who had worked on April's case and securing this arrest and conviction became recipients of the National Policing Award. And this award was in recognition of, obviously their tireless collaborative efforts that conducted over a span of 30 years to bring April's murderer to justice. And that's, again, like I said at the beginning, so deserved. It just goes to show there are incredible investigators and detectives who will put egos aside, accept help, and just stop at nothing to get the truth and be determined, like to involve more people as things are progressing, as more organizations are forming, technology, advancements in technology, like willing to kind of like hand anything that they possibly can over to get answers. And I thought that was very, very well deserved. All right, that is it for me today. I am sending so much love to April's family and friends. If any of you guys see like a foundation or a fundraiser in April's honor, please let me know. I did try to see if there was one. As of now, there isn't. So if you're listening in the future and there is one, please let me know, okay? I will see you in the next video. Oh, riddle answer. A quick refresher. I dance between the chill and sun. My showers make the flowers run. I'm fourth in line, yet never late. With jokes and blooms, I decorate. What month am I? And the answer is April. Ugh, that's so freaking sweet. Okay, I will see you in the next video. I will miss you terribly. Until then, make sure to love each other, love yourself, and I will see you soon.